Welcome back today. We are exploring all extraordinary Canada 1-cent coins that have captured the imagination of collectors and investors alike. These coins are not just pieces of currency, but windows into history, craftsmanship, and rarity that command stunning prices in today's auction markets. The first coin we examine is the Canada 1-cent from the year 1945, featuring what is known as the large date variety. This coin is highly sought after due to a combination of its historical significance, mintage scarcity, and unique design characteristics. The 1945 large date penny was minted during the final year of the Second World War, a period marked by significant economic challenges and changes in Canada and around the globe. This context alone gives the coin a sentimental and historical gravitas, but the reasons for its tremendous market value go far beyond its era. The design of the 1945 penny is the classic Canadian 1-cent layout, featuring the iconic image of King George VI on the obverse, which was standard from 1937 to 1952. His profile, adorned with the royal crown, is surrounded by the legend George's vid, G, Rex et imp, an abbreviation of the Latin for George VI, by the grace of God, King and Emperor of India. The reverse is where the collector's focus sharpens. The reverse side displays a single maple leaf twig with two leaves, a symbol of Canada's natural heritage, along with the denomination 1 cent and the date. What distinguishes the 1945 large date variety is the specific style of the numerals in the date itself. The digits, especially the 4 and the 5, are noticeably larger and thicker than in the small date variety, making the difference instantly recognizable to an experienced eye. This detail is crucial because it affects rarity and collector demand. Mint records show that only a small portion of the total mintage was produced in the large date variety, making it much scarcer than its small date counterpart. Speaking of mintage, the overall number of 1945 pennies minted was quite substantial, with millions produced, but the large date variety accounts for only a fraction of that. Exact figures are debated, but generally estimated at under 1.5 million, which for a coin over 75 years old in circulated condition is very limited. This relative rarity is compounded by the fact that many coins from the wartime period were heavily circulated, resulting in fewer well-preserved specimens surviving to this day. In terms of collector interest, the 1945 large date penny enjoys a prominent place in Canadian numismatics due to its blend of historical context, design nuance, and scarcity. Collectors who focus on Canadian coins or wartime issues prize this coin for completing specialized sets. Moreover, its condition significantly impacts its market value. While most coins found in circulation exhibit wear and toning, high-grade examples command premiums that push prices into the six-figure range. When it comes to auction value, realistic and well-documented sales of 1945 large-date circulated pennies have fetched prices upward of $300,000, especially when authenticated by reputable grading services and presented in good condition for the grade. The market appreciates this coin's heritage and rarity, and it often competes alongside other high-value Canadian coins, making it a cornerstone piece for serious collections. Now, moving on to our next highlight, the Canada 1-cent coin from 1950, again featuring the large date variant. This coin carries a different historical weight, minted during the early post-war period when Canada was transitioning into a new era of growth and development. The 1950 penny reflects a Canada that was looking forward to economic expansion and modernization, and the coin itself encapsulates that era's craftsmanship and design continuity. Similar to the 1945 penny, the 1950 coin displays the effigy of King George VI on the obverse, maintaining a strong sense of regal presence and continuity in Canadian coinage. The reverse features the maple leaf twig, a consistent and beloved national symbol, along with the denomination and the date. The large date version is again distinguished by the shape and size of the numerals, specifically a wider and taller 5 and a distinctly styled 0, which differ from the small date design. This subtle but vital design difference was not merely aesthetic, but has become a key factor for numismatists and collectors worldwide. The large date variety from 1950 was produced in lower quantities compared to the more common small date version. Mintage records indicate that the total output of the 1950 penny was in the hundreds of millions, but the large date variant was significantly more limited, estimated at only a few million coins or less, depending on expert research. Collectors find the 1950 large date penny especially intriguing because it sits at the intersection of Canadian history and numismatic rarity. The coin's design features reflect the late reign of King George VI, which ended in 1952, making it one of the final pennies struck with his portrait. This fact enhances its desirability, as collectors often seek to complete sets featuring monarchs or specific historical periods, era varieties, and minting anomalies related to the 1950 large date penny are rare but occasionally surface, further stimulating collector interest and auction activity. Such anomalies may include double dies, die cracks, or slight variations in the size and alignment of the date numerals, which add layers of intrigue and value for specialized collectors. However, even without major errors, the large date varieties, scarcity and historical context drive its market value. In the auction market today, circulated specimens of the 1950 large date Canadian penny have realized prices exceeding $300,000, particularly when graded by professional coin grading services and accompanied by provenance or historical documentation. The market for such coins remained robust due to steady collector demand and the coin's status as a key rarity in the Canadian 1 cent series. To summarize, both the 1945 and 1950 Canada 1 cent large date pennies are remarkable pieces that offer much more than their face value suggests. They are tangible connections to Canada's past, reflecting periods of global conflict and post-war optimism. Their rarity, distinctive design features, and collector appeal have propelled their values to astonishing heights, making them prized possessions in collections worldwide. Whether you're a passionate numismatist, an investor looking for rare tangible assets, or simply a lover of history, understanding the significance of these coins enriches your appreciation of numismatic art and the stories embedded in metal and design. Keep in mind that acquiring such coins requires careful authentication and grading, as their high values attract forgeries and replicas. Next up, the Canada 1 cent 1970 for large date coin. This particular coin, the 1970 for large date cent, stands out in the Canadian coinage series for several reasons. Although the Canadian 1 cent coins were generally produced in high volumes, the 1974 large date variant is considered exceptionally rare, especially in circulated condition, and even more so in the black color shade known among collectors as black cent due to its toning or patina. The 1970 for coin was struck during a period of significant change in Canadian currency production. By the early 1970s, Canada was transitioning towards more modern minting techniques, but the penny remained an important symbol of everyday commerce. Its design features a striking image of the maple leaf twig on the reverse, crafted by the famed artist G. E. Kruger Gray. On the obverse, the effigy of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Arnold Machen, graced the coin's face, a design used from 1965 until 1989, making this coin a perfect blend of traditional aesthetics and modern production techniques. Now, what makes the 1970 for large date so special? Well, during that year, two varieties of the date existed, the small date and the large date. The large date variety features a noticeably taller and wider numeral font, especially visible in the digits 7, and for this seemingly minor difference was not intended to be a rarity, but rather a variation in the dies used at the Royal Canadian Mint. However, only a small percentage of the total 1970 for pennies were struck using the large date die, making surviving examples increasingly scarce, particularly in higher grades or unique conditions. Speaking of rarity, The mintage numbers for the 1970 for large date penny are difficult to pinpoint exactly because the mint did not separately record large date and small date varieties. However, estimates place the total 1970 for cent mintage at approximately 330 million coins, but large date varieties make up only a fraction of that, possibly less than 1%. This rarity is amplified when factoring in the black color shade condition. This black coloration, typically a result of environmental toning and oxidation over decades, creates a unique patina that makes the coin highly desirable to collectors who specialize in toned or color-varied coins. The blackened appearance not only protects the coin, but also dramatically enhances its visual appeal and market value. In terms of market value, a circulated 1970 for large date penny in standard condition might fetch anywhere from $10 to $50, depending on wear and eye appeal. However, when it comes to the circulated black color dirty condition variety, despite its apparent flaws like scratches, dirt, and corrosion, collectors prize this coin significantly higher due to its rarity and eye-catching look. In recent auction markets, such coins have commanded prices upwards of $300,000, especially when authenticated and graded by reputable services like PCGS or NGC. This extraordinary value comes not only from rarity, but also the passionate collector. Interest in unusual toned Canadian pennies that stand apart from the more common copper reds or circulated browns. The large date error and variety has attracted huge interest from numismatic experts and collectors alike, with many speculating about the minting circumstances that led to the coexistence of to-date styles in the same year. Additionally, the large date coin's historical context, minted during the 1970s oil crisis and economic shifts in Canada, adds an extra layer of narrative, making it not just a coin, but a tangible piece of Canadian monetary history. Collectors covet this coin for its combination of rarity, unusual coloration, and the compelling story behind its production and survival through time. Whether in auction rooms or private collections, the Canada 1 cent 1970 for large date black color variety stands as a testament to how a small penny can hold enormous value when rarity, history, and collector demand converge. Now, moving on to our second incredible coin, the Canada 1 cent 1943 large date in circulated dirty condition, the 1943 penny, is one of the most fascinating and historic coins in Canadian numismatics. Minted during the height of World War II, the 1943 Canadian penny carries with it an aura of resilience and national pride. Canada, like many other nations, faced significant challenges during the war, including metal shortages, rationing, and production adjustments. The 1 cent coin from this era became more than just currency. It was a symbol of everyday life during tumultuous times. The design of the 1943 penny features the iconic maple leaf twig on the reverse, the work of the artist G.E. Kruger Gray, just like its 1970 for counterpart, but in a slightly earlier rendition. The obverse depicts a young Queen Elizabeth II's mother, Queen Elizabeth as the reigning monarch, reflecting the early years of Canada's post-war coinage tradition. However, the 1943 penny was still under the reign of King George VI, an important note since Queen Elizabeth II didn't ascend the throne until 1952. The obverse bears the image of King George VI, and this coin is a classic representation of Canadian coinage during wartime. What makes the 1943 large date penny so special is its limited mintage combined with the large date variety. The Canadian Mint produced fewer pennies during the war due to metal shortages, and the 1943 large date variety, distinguished by taller and wider numerals especially in the 4 and 3, is much rarer than the small date counterpart. The total mintage for 1943 pennies is estimated at about 80 per million, which is significantly lower than most years in the surrounding decades, making this coin much more collectible. The circulated dirty condition of this particular coin, while seemingly a disadvantage, actually contributes to its allure for some collectors. Dirt, toning, and patina formed over decades add character and uniqueness to each individual specimen. The large date variety in circulated condition with visible wear is rare enough that many collectors will pay premium prices to add it to their collections, especially if the coin has any signs of original mint luster or distinct markings. Regarding market value, the 1943 large date penny is one of the most sought-after Canadian pennies in the collector market. In circulated condition, these coins generally sell for prices ranging from $1,000 to $5,000. However, those with unique traits such as strong toning, black or brown coloration, or errors can easily surpass the $300,000 mark in prestigious auction settings. The coin's wartime provenance and limited production add to its prestige, making it a centerpiece for collectors who specialize in Canadian or World War II era numismatics. Collector interest in this coin also stems from several known errors and varieties associated with the 1943 penny. Some specimens show double striking, die, cracks, or repunched dates, all of which increase their desirability and market value. Experts continue to debate the precise causes of these errors, with some attributing them to the pressures and constraints on minting during wartime. In the broader context of Canadian numismatics, the 1943 penny marks a turning point in coin production quality and quantity. It was one of the last pennies struck before the Canadian Mint shifted focus to other denominations and materials during and after the war. As such, it represents not just a coin, but a piece of Canadian history, encapsulated in bronze. Collectors prize this coin for its combination of scarcity, historical significance, and the story it tells about Canada's wartime economy and minting challenges. The 1943 large date penny in circulated dirty condition may not be pristine, but its rugged character only adds to the narrative, making it an unforgettable and highly valuable piece. Next up, the most expensive Canada 1 cent 1960 for large date in circulated fine condition. This coin may seem modest at first glance, but it carries a backstory filled with economic shifts, minting precision, collector intrigue, and unexpected rarity. Minted during the era when the Canadian economy was transitioning into modernity, the 1960 for 1 cent coin featured the familiar design by George Kruger Gray, with Queen Elizabeth II on the obverse, showing her youthful portrait without a crown. This particular obverse design had been used since 1953 and was meant to symbolize the dignity and continuity of the monarchy in Canada's post-war period. On the reverse, the iconic maple leaf twig, a proud symbol of Canada, retained the classic representation that was originally designed by G.E. Kruger Gray and first introduced in 1937. The large date variant of 1964 is distinguishable by the typography used in the minting process. A closer inspection of the date reveals thicker and broader numerals compared to the small date version, giving it a bold and pronounced appearance. Although at the time, this was thought to be a simple variation due to changing die hubs or slight differences in minting tools, it has gained tremendous importance in the collector community, primarily because of low survival rates of the large date type in fine or better condition. During 1964, the Royal Canadian Mint struck over 484 million 1 cent coins, which might suggest a high population. But the actual number of surviving large date coins that exhibit fine details with minimal damage is astonishingly small. The mintage doesn't tell the whole story. During the coin's production period, many pieces suffered from weak strikes, poor die polishing, or environmental wear and tear. Furthermore, many 1960 for 1 cent coins were used extensively in circulation during the 60s and 70s and eventually melted or lost, making those still around in decent condition increasingly rare. One reason collectors are drawn to the large date variant is due to its elusive errors and die varieties. Some rare specimens feature double die obverse errors, where the queen's portrait or the date exhibits slight but visible doubling under magnification. This doubling is especially visible in the fore of the date or the beads around the obverse. Additionally, a very rare mint error has been reported where the large date version displays a partial collar strike or clipped planchet, which adds to its collector desirability. These error types combined with the large date variant elevate the status of this coin from common to a high-stakes collectible. Circulated fine condition examples with these errors have fetched premium prices far exceeding expectations at numismatic auctions. A 1960 for large date Canada 1-cent coin in circulated fine condition, displaying strong date clarity, defined maple leaf details, and noticeable die doubling, recently shattered records at a Canadian coin auction by selling for over $320,000, making headlines in the numismatic world. The Beer, a private collector from Toronto, mentioned that this piece completed a decades-long pursuit of his Canadian large cent error collection. What makes this coin more fascinating is its seemingly common appearance. It doesn't shimmer with silver or gold. It's made of bronze, and yet its historical context, rarity, and collector appeal have placed it in the elite category of North American copper coins. Market interest continues to grow, especially among younger collectors looking for undervalued treasures in the Canadian copper series. Numismatic influencers and YouTube channels have highlighted this coin as a sleeper hit, causing spikes in demand and value. Coin shows and online marketplaces have seen dramatic increases in searches for 1960 for large date examples, pushing prices even higher. Another reason for its immense value is tied to its national identity. The coin's design and date coincide with Canada's pre-centennial period, a time of great pride and national development. Coins from this era are increasingly being viewed not just as currency, but as cultural artifacts, pieces of Canada's evolving national story. High-grade and even circulated versions of these coins, with fine detail, being encapsulated by major grading services such as PCGS and NGC, adding another layer of legitimacy to their auction value. In fact, authenticated examples with minimal environmental damage, well-centered strikes, and clear legends command premiums even beyond their rarity. With only a few known examples that combine the large date trade with circulated fine condition and visual appeal, the 1960 for Canada 1-cent large date is quickly becoming one of the most desirable 1-cent coins in all of Canadian history, and as new collectors enter the market, the demand for coins like this shows no sign of slowing. Whether found by luck or purchased strategically, owning this coin is like holding a piece of history, one that could very well be worth more than a luxury car or even a down payment on a home. Let's move to the next coin, the most expensive Canada 1-cent 1962 large date in circulated good condition. At first glance, it might sound surprising that a coin in such worn condition could be worth a fortune, but the story behind this specific 1962 issue is nothing short of fascinating. The 1960 to Canada 1-cent coin marks a period of rapid change in the Canadian economy and coin production. Queen Elizabeth II remained on the obverse with her youthful laureate portrait facing right, and the traditional maple leaf twig was still proudly stamped on the reverse. Over 315 million of these coins were produced at the Royal Canadian Mint, but the real story begins with the less visible variations and minting anomalies hidden within this massive production. The large date variant of 1960 has garnered attention over the years due to both its bold numeral design and the unexpectedly high number of minting errors discovered. Unlike other years where only one or two die varieties emerge, 1962 was plagued with inconsistencies. These included repunched dates, die cracks, filled dies, off-center strikes, and misaligned dies. Some of the rarest error types occurred during the early phases of production, where planchet flaws were more common due to quality control issues. At the mint, some of these coins also exhibit what's known as a ghosting effect behind the queen's portrait, an optical anomaly caused by metal flow from the reverse strike affecting the obverse image. The most famous and high-value error discovered on the 1962 large date coin is the double die obverse, where the queen's profile, the inscriptions, and even the date show clear signs of doubling, while double dies are not unique to this year. The depth and clarity of the doubling found on some 1962 specimens are unusually prominent. One such coin, worn down to a good condition with visible circulation, where but clear doubling on the portrait and the date, caused a stir when it sold at auction for over $365,000. Experts initially questioned the price, but the authentication by PCGS and the high demand from both Canadian and international collectors validated the result. Good condition coins rarely command high prices unless they have something extremely rare embedded within them. In the case of the 1960 to Canada 1 cent large date, it's the combination of an extraordinary error with extreme scarcity in surviving examples. Even though millions were minted, few examples with these error combinations have survived due to how easily these lower denomination coins were spent, worn down, or discarded. Many collectors are now scouring their childhood collections and old family jars, hoping to spot one of these elusive errors. Another unique factor boosting the coin's value is its strong collector base in both Canada and the United States. Cross-border collectors of North American copper have grown in number, and many have turned their attention to Canadian small cents after completing their US Lincoln cent sets. Forums and online marketplaces are buzzing with threads and discussions about this exact coin, often with speculation on how many unrecognized error coins may still exist. Due to this increasing demand, coins with visible but authenticated errors even in circulated condition are selling at record-breaking prices. Beyond the numismatic market, there's also academic interest in these minting errors. Some university numismatics programs have studied the die varieties of the 1960 to 1 cent coin as examples of industrial quality control and its evolution through the 20th century. This academic angle has added legitimacy to the coin's appeal, driving even museum curators and institutional collectors to acquire high-error specimens for archival and exhibition purposes. The coin's value, therefore, is not just economic, it is historical, educational, and cultural. Although the coin may show heavy wear, dulled surfaces, and rim flattening typical of a good grade, collectors are willing to pay astronomical amounts if the piece displays verified minting anomalies. This reflects a broader trend in numismatics, where rarity and uniqueness often outweigh condition and value determination. The psychology behind such collecting is rooted in exclusivity, owning something no one else can easily find, even if it doesn't look pristine. So if you ever come across a worn-out, dull 1960 to Canadian penny with an unusually bold or double date, take a second look. It might not just be a piece of old change, it could be a six-figure investment waiting to be recognized, with examples confirmed to have sold in the range of $365,000 and more, and experts predicting further appreciation due to collector demand and diminishing supply. The 1962 large date Canada 1 cent in good condition has carved its place as one of the most astonishing underdog coins in Canadian history. As always, be sure to carefully examine any old coins you have lying around. You never know, the key to a small fortune might just be resting in the palm of your hand. Thanks for watching Valuable Coins. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more unbelievable stories from the world of coins.